Hello everybody, it is Corey from Gemini Guitar, and we're back for some acoustic today. As you heard in the introduction there, we are looking at a particular raking technique, and this is something I'd completely forgotten about until I was just having a bit of a muck around here. And it's a really cool technique just to ease the load on the picking hand so that we can get some extremely fast arpeggiating going just with a controlled downward motion. So the first chord we're looking at is an E minor chord in the 7th position. So you'll just need, or think of it as it's like an E minor bar chord, except that we don't bar over string 1. So it should look and sound like that. The second chord we're using is in the 5th position. I just think of that as a D power chord with the open B and E string. And then from there we're just going to move that shape down. So it's pretty easy from there. We just go back a fret. Back another fret. Back 2 frets or a whole step into the 1st position. That's a really nice one, that B flat. Very nice tension between the 3rd and 2nd string. And finally just returning to an open E minor chord. So the main thing you're going to want to be concentrating on here is the sweeping or raking technique. So this one's just a downward motion. We're going to control the pick so that we're not doing separate downstrokes, but rather we're just doing one continuous down movement, I should say, getting a bit tongue twisted there. But as I said, not the separate pick stroke. So let's look at the differences. So if we were to do it as a separate pick stroke, it sounds like this. I'll do it with alternate picking because I can do it a bit faster. Now, when we do that with the controlled motion, it looks like this. So to go more in depth, we need to slow down, and that's what we're going to do right now. And basically what I'm doing is going from the 5th string, and I'm going to control that rake motion all the way down to the 1st string. And if we do it very slowly, watch carefully how the pick behaves here. Even slower. Now if you're paying attention, what you'll notice is the downward motion occurs through the 5th string, rests into the 4th string ready to go, and at the point it's needed, does the same motion, rests into the string above, and the process continues. Now when it's sped up, you're not going to notice that as much, obviously, because it's very fast then. But once you get it, it's actually a really effective way of attaining, some really high and furious speeds, at least with a down motion. You can also use this with an up motion later on. It works just as well in the opposite direction, which is essentially sweep picking, the down and up motion. But initially it is difficult to do because you've got to control the pick motion, so you can't just strum it, which is essentially just a really fast version of what we're doing. So it's so fast it just happens virtually instantly. So you've got to slow it down a little bit so you can keep control and get the rhythm right. So So essentially you need to have control of the wrist area here, because that's what's going to control that movement. Notice how there's a slight movement that way. So that's basically the nuts and bolts of the technique, and after that it's just a matter of practicing. I don't think there's a need to practice to a metronome, but I mean that can help if you would like to do that. But it's essentially more about listening for that evenness of sound while you're doing the raking through the notes. Notice there I lost control a bit at the beginning. And sometimes that's going to happen when you're new to this, so you'll end up a bit sort of all over the shop, but with time and practice and attention to the details, that will improve. So what we'll do now is we'll just have a look at a very slow playthrough of the basic idea, and then you can go off and practice that yourself. One thing I forgot to mention, just now that I think about, is the rest of the picking. So obviously from what you can see there, it's the alternate picking technique. So the initial rake, then an up, down, up, except we go the second string, so it's, oops, down again on the third, and then up on the fourth. On the second run through, if I'm staying on that chord, I tend to stop just one note early on the third string on the down. That just gives it some variety, and you know, it always makes things sound just a little bit more interesting. So let's do that play through, and you can watch each chord in motion then. Alrighty, so hope you have enjoyed that, have some fun with it, and acoustic's always a really cool way of practicing because you don't need to plug in, and so it's less complicated that way. But anyways, until the next lesson, bye for now.